Good morning. Don't jump up there. I'll see it. Don't jump. I wanted to ask, oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Is that on TV?
And stone cold sober, too. Listen, can we have a moment? I'd like a moment of silence, please, in honor of a friend of ours who died last week. Dennis Marion, who was the single county authority of Cumberland and Perry County for many years, died last week. He also was the prevention director up in Susquehanna-Wayne counties, and was most recently the head of the Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. So let's take a minute and think of Dennis Marion and send our prayers to his wife and family. Thank you. Hi. Yay! You know, they thought nobody cared. Nobody cared if we got rid of the Department of Drug and Alcohol programs. And they thought nobody cared about the dismissal of Gary Tennis. So I guess they were wrong. I mean, I'm looking around. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to not talk very long because these guys are going to talk. I want to move on to the agenda for the day. A few years ago, many of you came to the Capitol to talk to your legislators about establishing a Department of Drug and Alcohol programs. We came to support State Representative Jean DiGirolamo, who was leading that effort. Other states said, oh my gosh, how did that happen? Other states look up to Pennsylvania because of that. The cabinet level Department of Drug and Alcohol programs, for those of you who do not know it, was established to address the highly stigmatized addiction problem in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The legislature, and these are tidbits you're probably, oh, I see signs coming, oh my goodness, bring them on, girls. The legislature, your House of Representatives and your Pennsylvania Senate passed that legislation with near unanimous votes. Now, what did it do? And Jean, I need a little help here. You're going to, if you'll point at the sign. His department moved the Drug and Alcohol Agency out of the basement of the Health Department and up to the cabinet, reporting directly to the governor. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, the disease we're here about is the only disease that cuts across every agency of government in negative ways. It requires, in criminal justice, the welfare system, you know the story. It cried out for a high-level, coordinated, high-visibility, high-energy effort to pull together the fragmentation from the other departments and to streamline it into one leadership organization and to bring focus and visibility. Now, the administration has proposed eliminating the cabinet and demoting it, dismantling it, and burying it once again in another agency, but this time even a bigger agency. Now understand, the proposal undoes what the General Assembly did with great wisdom a few years ago. That's the good news. The General Assembly doesn't have to go along with this. The House and Senate can just say no. They can say, promote the department, don't demote the department. Your legislator can say no. So I want to stop and give you some directions, which are going to be repeated at the end of the speakers. For those of you who have never been here, and Jean's going to correct me if I get this messed up, you are now in the East Wing. You looked up who your member of the House was using your home address, and if you didn't, it's on the website on the handout. Look it up. Who's your House member? Who's your senator? If it says EW, it's the East Wing. You're in the East Wing right now. That direction and that direction are the 2-digit numbers. If you're into a 3-digit number, it's the same thing, but it's upstairs, okay? So if you're EW, you're in this section for the House of Representatives. If yours says Irvis Building, you're going to go through that hallway till you're bouncing off against the wall, and you're in the basement of the Irvis Building, and you take the elevators upstairs. If it says Ryan Office Building, and these are not all that far, you go down that hallway till you bounce off against the wall, and you go up the steps, and you're in the basement of the Ryan Office Building. Now, main Capitol, I always skip that. The main Capitol's up the steps. The House of Representatives main Capitol is on this side, all the way up to the top. And again, elevators, you can take elevators. The Senate, where are they? Most of the Senate is over on that side, if you go up the elevator, up the escalator. The Senate's like in a turret, except for a half a dozen Senate offices that are right here. So we'll be around to help you do that. You have yellow sheets. I would encourage you to use the back of it to write a note to your legislator. When you get in the office, if the member is not present, tell them where you came from and ask to meet with the person who handles drug and alcohol issues. And then meet with them. Often the staff do all of that work for the member. You can leave the yellow handout behind with your name and address on that. The manners on the Hill. There's a lot going on up here today. So good manners, you're part of democracy in action. That's what you are. You're democracy in action. So now I have the great pleasure. Oh, please don't leave till you hit their offices. We will have failed if you don't hit their offices. One more time, the proposal by the governor, he makes a proposal. The legislature can say, hell no, we won't go. Yeah. Here we go. I'm going to introduce State Representative Jean DiGirolamo, our leader.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our beautiful, beautiful Capitol. And as Deb Beck just said, this is an example of democracy at work. Absolutely is. So welcome, and a big shout out to the people that are here from Bucks County. I see Nancy out here from Liberty. Everybody from Bucks County, a special welcome to each and every one of you. I got a question for you, for each and every one of you. Do you think treatment works? Is recovery possible? Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. And you are all a shining example of that. And I want to point out one gentleman here who has an enormous amount of courage. He's got so much courage that he was fired from his job because he wouldn't accept the demotion of DDAP, and that's Gary Tennis right here. What courage he had not to accept this demotion of the department that all of you and many more people had a part of creating. Are we going to go into a large bureaucracy? Do we want the department to go into a large, are we going to go there? Are we going to go down to a bottom of a large bureaucracy? Are we going to go, do we want to go there? What's our message to the administration? Hell no, we won't go. 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 That's the message that we want to send to everybody that wants to do this. It is an absolute disgrace. An absolute disgrace. We just had a public hearing up in the main Capitol. Some of you were there. Members from both sides of the aisle, the aging department, the health department, Democrats and Republicans. And I can tell you, quite honestly, from all the questions that were asked by the members, that there is very, very little support in the legislature to do this. Very little support. The state of Texas is in the process of trying to do this right now. You know what year they started? 2003 they started doing this. They've been working on it for 14 years, and they haven't accomplished it yet. They're in phase 1, and this administration wants to do it in a couple of months. What's wrong with that? There's something wrong with that, and we are not going to allow it to happen. With your help, and as Deb Beck said, please go around to the offices of your legislatures. If you don't know where you're going, ask questions of people. Most of the people in here know where the offices are. So ask questions, find your legislator's office and a member of the House. We're in session right now, but we will be breaking, so you got a good opportunity to see them a little bit later on. It is so very, very important that you're here today. So please see your legislators and your House members, and we'll have people here to help you. So with that, I'm going to end, and I just want to promise you we're not going to let this happen. We are not going to. We worked too hard to create this department. They've been doing such good work. 3,000 lives saved with Narcan, 100 tons of these prescription drugs taken back with the Take Back program. We got to continue the good work of the Department of Drug and Alcohol programs, not bury it in a large bureaucracy. So let's keep up the good work. Hell no, we won't go.
I give you State Representative Aaron Coffer.
Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing here today? Well, my name's Aaron Coffer. I'm our Heroin and Opioid Prevention and Education Chairman within the House, and it's a pleasure to be here. For many of you, it's the first time I've got to see such a large group besides last year when we had that big rally, that Day of Hope. Do you remember that, September 20th here? One of the largest rallies we ever had. And it's sad that after having a rally like that, that we have to be here to fight for what we mobilize people across all corners of Pennsylvania. This, to me, is a travesty. A travesty. We have somebody right now, or had, somebody who had the ear of the governor. No lines in between, but somebody who could go directly to the governor on issues related to drug and alcohol. In the midst of one of the biggest outbreak epidemics throughout our entire, not only Commonwealth, but the entire country and world right now, we want to say that's not a big enough priority to have the ear of the governor. That's what's being said. There is no way that this makes any policy sense with what's going on at a time, especially put the cost savings aside because we've yet to hear the real cost savings. That's the at least part of the discussion. What about the treatment and services? What about the people that we can help that can get into recovery? You know, maybe it's because of my age. I'm 28 years old, right? And maybe it's because of my age, but I've lost so many people that went to high school with me. Luzerne County now has 4 times the overdose rate of New York City. Luzerne County, the area I represent. We've made national news twice. Maybe it's time we make national news to kick back the other way, that we're not going to put up with this. I appreciate everybody for taking their time here. Please, I know the people, the speakers before me have said this. Please take the time to continue democracy in action. It's not just here. Go home and talk to your friends, your family, your neighbors, people that are in treatment and in recovery, and people that are providers all across our Commonwealth. This voice needs to grow all across. I know Deb and Jean and Gary will keep this conversation going. This doesn't stop today. It starts today, and they don't know who they're messing with.
Oh my goodness. I want to make jokes here, but I won't make them. I want to recognize Representative Tina Davis from Bucks County is with us today. Representative Doyle Heffley from Monroe. It's glad to have you join us. I have to make jokes because it's like I have to see, I don't know that I see this many sober people at the same time, you know, and here in Harrisburg sometimes. Anyway, I have the great privilege now of introducing Pennsylvania's first Secretary of the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, Gary Tennis.
Thank you so much. I could not possibly be more honored than I am by your presence here and your support here, not just for me, but mostly for this cause. I feel your presence. I also feel the presence of the thousands and thousands of Pennsylvanians who needlessly are going to die this year. And their families. I get the honor of standing next to my friend Carmen Capozzi and that beautiful young man who died needlessly. We're losing this year more Americans to this disease than we lost in all 12 years of the Vietnam War. And yet the Surgeon General reports that we only provide enough funding to meet 10% of the need. And yet we don't think this needs priority. We live in a nation that has 240 years of oppressing and stigmatizing those who have the misfortune of coming down with the disease of drug and alcohol addiction. It has been a fight that has occurred over the centuries and over the decades. Funding only 10%. What has our answer been for drug and alcohol addiction? We've allowed people to get sicker and sicker, to lose their homes, their families, their jobs, and ultimately, when they deteriorate onto the street, we have a cage to put them in, and we call ourselves a civilization. It's not right. And so the General Assembly and you and people like you all over the state battled for 20 years. For 20 years to give this issue the prominence that it needs. To say we will not put up with the thousands dying every year. We will not put up with the thousands of families suffering that shattering loss, watching their loved ones descend so painfully, so torturously down into this disease and into death. We will not stand it anymore. We're going to give this issue the prominence it needs. We're going to give it a voice not buried in the bureaucracy of the Department of Health or Department of Human Services, but at the cabinet level where we can speak and give this attention, finally give this issue the attention it deserves. Act 50 of 2010 was the result of the work of thousands and thousands of Pennsylvanians who said, we will not put up with this anymore. This has got to get the prominence. And the General Assembly nearly unanimously and very, very wisely and courageously agreed and said, yes, we will give this a department level, cabinet level attention, not to create silos, but to break down silos. And they were right. The General Assembly was, the question has come up in the House and the Senate, did we make a mistake? And the answer is, we have proven that the General Assembly was 100% right. And I'm going to give you some examples. If we didn't need a department, let's talk about people coming out of jail. For people coming out of jail, to get them into Medicaid-funded drug and alcohol treatment, it took 6 weeks after they came out of jail. Think of this. Someone with an alcohol or drug problem coming out of jail, having to wait 6 weeks for Medicaid to get turned on. DPW and now DHS, they had 25 years, 30 years, they could have fixed that problem. When did it get fixed? When we had a Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs that pushed them to do it. And now everybody coming out of county jail with a drug and alcohol problem today, instead of being hung out to dry for 6 weeks with no services, now the Medicaid is turned on the instant they step out of jail, and there's treatment waiting for them the instant. That means those lives are saved. That means more health in our communities, that means less crime in our communities, and that means great, great savings. We talk about saving taxpayer dollars. We have brought millions and millions of extra federal Medicaid dollars into Pennsylvania because we had a Department of Drug and Alcohol programs that pushed our system to do this. There was nothing that would have stopped Department of Health or Human Services or our law enforcement agencies to press for naloxone for law enforcement, to press to raise that money. The Department of Drug and Alcohol programs reached out, and we didn't do any of this by ourselves, by the way. All of this is silo breaking down. You will not break down silos in the drug and alcohol area if you don't have a cabinet-level department to do it. Here with naloxone, we were able to reach across, raise $600,000. Dr. Levine mentioned she actually joined us with that. And now we have 3/4 of Pennsylvania's population with their police officers carrying naloxone. 3,000 souls saved that are walking the planet today because we created a Department of Drug and Alcohol programs. If you don't have this department, those people are dead. This is a life and death matter. Take-back boxes. We know the overprescribing that's occurred, the quadrupling of opioids. Because we had a department, we were able to raise money from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, Staunton Farms Foundation, U.S. Healthy Water, law enforcement, Philadelphia Camden HIDA. We now have 500 take-back boxes across the state, and we've collected over 200,000 pounds of prescription drugs that would have been poisoning our children. And that is occurring. That's occurring today because the General Assembly had the wisdom to create this department. We have to fight to keep it because these things will stop. If I were a bureau director, I guarantee you this would not have been possible. Prescribing guidelines. We know what happened with the opioid prescribing. We know the cause of this issue. We know why we're in this current epidemic. And it was in 2013. The Department of Health has, for 20 years, we've had overprescribing of opioids. They could have created a huge task force to get prescribing guidelines. Because we had a Department of Drug and Alcohol programs, laser focus on this issue. In 2013, we pulled this together, and now Pennsylvania leads the nation with discipline-specific prescribing guidelines that are going to save thousands and thousands of lives. DDAP breaks down silos to fight for drug and alcohol. We work with all the other agencies. That's what the General Assembly wanted us to do, and that's what we're going to do. The stigma exists. You're going to hear talk about, oh, it's going to be better, but it's not going to quite make sense why it's going to be better not to have a cabinet-level official. I'll tell you what happens to somebody who's a bureau director who moves like we were able to move as a secretary. You get fired. It turns out you get fired even if you're a secretary. But yeah, at least I lasted for 5 years. So this is life and death. As you go, please go to your legislators. Please reach out to all of your family, all of your friends, all of your colleagues. Ask them to reach out to their state legislators. This terrible, terrible, really deadly proposal is now in the hands of our legislature, our state representatives and our state senators. They are the ones that can protect us. They are the ones that can sustain this tremendous victory. With you go the spirits of those who have died, the thousands that die every year, the families. I can't help my good friend Carmen Capozzi, who's next going to speak. He has a picture of his beautiful son, Sage Capozzi, born on the very day and year of my youngest son. And by the way, when I think about the sacrifice of giving up my job, it means nothing. I thank God every day. You know, that the sacrifice that Carmen Capozzi and 3,500 families are having to make every day because of our neglect of this issue. Carmen has taken his pain and taken his suffering and determined and resolved that he will spend the rest of his life fighting to reduce the number of people who have to go through the nightmare he did. And it is a great, great honor for me to introduce Carmen Capozzi.
Thank you, Gary. Sage Anthony Capozzi, 20 years old. I buried him March 5th, 2012. Do I need to tell you who he was? He was amazing. March 9th, 2012, I had to bury my son. At his funeral, at his viewing, 500 people showed up. I remember 12. 12 parents that came through that line and said, my son or daughter is an addict. And I said, we all stayed silent. We all stayed silent. Nobody talked about it because of the shame and the guilt and the finger pointing. March 15th, 2012, I spoke something to a young man that sat on my couch with his laptop and his page for my son, Sage Capozzi Memorial Page. And I got mad. I got mad at the discrimination of some local policemen that treated me with no compassion. Tried to tell me how I should have raised my son. I looked at that boy and I said, Nick, Sage's heart was good. He was always trying to help his friends. I need to create awareness. I need an army of people. And he goes, oh, cool, dude, Sage's army. And I said, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, give me a minute. And he created a Facebook page. That Facebook page in 24 hours blew up to 1,800 people all over the United States asking me for help or telling me their story. A father from Buffalo, New York, Avi Israel, lost his son, Crohn's disease. The doctors had him so doped up on Oxycontin, in and out of rehabs. Michael's 20 years old. He came into his dad's bedroom and said, Dad, I can't take this no more. I'm hearing voices. And Avi said, all right, honey, we're going to get you back in rehab. We're going to get you back to the doctor. We'll figure this out. Michael went in the bedroom and shot himself in the head. I met Avi in Washington, D.C. in 2013. So many parents, Florida, California. My wife said to me, what are you going to do, Carmen? I said, I'm just going to speak. Sage's army blew up. The third person to inbox me on that page was my senator, Kim Ward. And she inboxed me looking for guidance, looking for support, because she has a loved one battling addiction. And she wanted to meet me. So me and my wife went and sat with her. And she said, I got to get you to Harrisburg. You got to meet Gary Tennis. And we went, my family, and Kim was on the floor, and we were waiting for Gary to walk in, and he walked in, and I was standing right at the door, and he shook my hand and said, hi, I'm Gary Tennis. And I said, hi. And we were going to sit down and eat, and he asked the secretary, he goes, can we get started now? I don't want to wait. I want to talk to this gentleman. I want to hear his story. He was ready to go. And that's how he's always been, a man of action. I have a catchphrase, awareness, compassion, and action. We have to be aware of the problem, have compassion for the person that has the problem. We have to take action. Gary's a man of action. I can call that man on a Sunday night and he'll answer his phone. I've been blessed to be asked from Gary and the old governor to sit on the Advisory Council for Drug and Alcohol. It's my 4th year. I am blessed to be able to sit on this board with these people to make change. I never thought this is where my life would be. I'm in a position to make change, to help. I didn't understand addiction. I take it back home. I go to other communities. I build them up. I don't just sit in my little spot. I go out. I go to West Virginia. I go to Ohio. I go wherever they want me. And sometimes my family goes, you need to slow down. No. This is personal. We need the Department of Drug and Alcohol. On the way here this morning, God gave me a scripture, John 10:10. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and create division. And that's just what he's trying to do here. He's trying to create division, and we're not going to let it happen. I came here on a bus with people in recovery, amazing people. Them up. We're going to give them a voice. They're not going to sit still. They're going to speak. They're going to speak the hope. So that's about all I got to say, but I love Gary. We need DDAP. Thank you.
Wow. Do your thing. We're gonna disperse soon. I want to say this. In the audience, a few minutes ago as we gathered, a beautiful woman came up to me grieving and said, I'm the woman who lost her daughter 15 days ago. Is that there you are? Would you step forward? She just lost her daughter 15 days ago. Would you all take time to love her today? Okay, did you want to say something? No, okay. I just want somebody. Okay. Jane, what is your voice?
Okay, Deb's lost her voice a little bit, so I'm going to give you a little bit of instructions. I mean, that's the end of the press conference. I thought we made a really good case for why we need to keep DDAP. And again, very appreciative of all you being here. And as Deb said, you have the yellow sheets. So I believe you know who your representatives are. And again, this is the East Wing. So if where you're going in the East Wing, you're either downstairs or upstairs where the people are around the railing. That is the East Wing. If you're going to the Capitol, the main Capitol, it's up the escalator, straight ahead to the rotunda, and then to the left are all the House offices. If you're going to the Ryan office building, it's down this way and straight back. If you're going to the Irvis office building, you can go the same way, down this hallway and then straight back and find the Irvis office building. Please, please see your representatives or their staff person and make the case why we need to keep DDAP. Thank you for being here, and God bless each and every one of you.